a massive need for the Chiefs has been filled. But everyone's Jeremiah Love, the 9th pick. He's going to be gone.
Yep.
He's going to be gone before 9. So they needed running back help. We have been talking about the Chiefs needing production at the running back spot since Isaiah Pacheco broke his leg.
Yep.
And is the best way to get a productive running back how they got it with Pacheco? A 7th-round pick who you find and you draft. Yes, that is the best way to do it. But when you have apparently 1 year left to Kelsey, Chris Jones towards the end, and you're smack dab in the middle of Patrick Mahomes' prime, and he's coming off of his first significant injury, sometimes you're going to want to turn around and hand the ball off to a good player. And you're going to also want chunk plays to not have to only come from Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
And Kenneth Walker, we saw it in the playoffs. He's got a tremendous amount of burst. And he was, because of the timeshare with Charbonnet, he really wasn't used that much in Seattle. Like, the thing that jumps off of that graphic you showed was the 13 rush attempts per game. Like, that's a very low number. Like, the Chiefs are going to do more than that for sure. And if we show up the explosive runs, he had more by himself than the Chiefs had all of last year. And that was with Kenneth Walker not getting the ball all that much. So assuming Kenneth Walker becomes the focal point of their running game, which for $15 million a year, he obviously will, he should have a massive statistical season next year in Kansas City.
Wow.
I see no reason for him
Massive.
not. Yeah.
What are you thinking?
At least 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Holy cow.
I mean, he had 1,000 yards in Seattle with Charbonnet getting 13 carries a game.
Yeah, so Nick disagrees with this, but we have seen time and time again, running back gets hurt. I mean, you could almost argue this is the Kenneth Walker story. Running back goes down, new running back comes in, either free agent or waiver wire guy comes in and just picks up where the other guy was because the line and the play calling and the system works. The fact that Kansas City was so inept at running the ball makes me think it's not just a Pacheco problem. It was not just a Clyde Edwards-Helaire problem. Part of me thinks it's either a line problem or a play calling problem. When you're down with just the teams these are the only teams that ran the ball less effectively than the Chiefs. Raiders, who have a great running back, we think. Cardinals, Titans, Bengals, Saints, Browns, Steelers, Chiefs. I'm just not sure they were just a running back away, that it's not more systemic, for lack of a better word.
I think that there's probably some truth to that. They hired Eric Bieniemy, former running back coach, offensive coordinator, come in, so he's expected to.
Maybe he solves it too.
He's expected to.
And when he was there, they had a decent run game.
Yep.
Correct. And they're hoping, obviously, that Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey stay healthy together all year, the interior of their offensive line, which should be an elite run blocking unit. So, yeah. And also, sometimes you have to just spend to fix a need. Like they had gotten nothing from that position now for years, and they just signed the Super Bowl MVP. I don't know how you don't like the deal.
I like it. Clearly, they needed it. I agree. Love was not going to be there at number 9. And for Mahomes, when he comes back, even whether it's game 1 or whenever, it's going to help him to have a running back that they can just give the ball to, and he can get them 4 or 5 yards. And Walker showed when Charbonnet got hurt that he can be that bell cow.
Yep.
Like, that's why his numbers went up. Well, and a lot of running backs can't do that. But he can be more than a guy that splits time. Now, he's not a great pass catcher.
No.
But he is a bell cow, and so I think that'll be more necessary. It's been necessary for them, but even more so with Mahomes coming off the injury. So,
yeah, I mean, listen, as someone who watched Kenneth Walker every single game with the Seattle Seahawks, the Seahawks' success was very much a team success collectively. Like this was a team that they all collectively played their part, whether it be because of defense, whether it be because of the O-line, whether it be because of Jackson Smith and Jigba, Cooper Kupp, Clint Kubiak. If we're looking at it from the coaching side, I don't think it was necessarily like, I'm sure actually a lot of Chiefs fans, the first time they really saw Kenneth Walker play last season was probably mainly in the Super Bowl or maybe a couple other playoff games. And in the Super Bowl, he was definitely impressive, definitely really physical, relentless, exhausting and all that. But like, I don't want to pretend like that's who we saw throughout the whole course of the season, that he was this bell cow, that he was this workhorse. Now, the Seattle Seahawks did have a 73%, so it was 8th in the NFL in run block win rate. Okay. And the Kansas City Chiefs actually had a 70%, which was 25th, but it's only a 3% difference. So 70%. And Kenneth Walker was technically the second highest rated running back according to PFF under Ach. If we look at it on a yards basis, which I don't think is really necessarily helpful because, you know, certain backs are being split up, et cetera, or even just a touchdown situation, right? Because we can see Derrick Henry 16 touchdowns, Josh Jacobs 13 touchdowns. Again, it all depends on how these offenses are run in a lot of ways. But the Seahawks had a great rushing attack. They got 1,000 from Charbonnet. They got 1,000 from Kenneth Walker. 730 from Charbonnet, who then only ended up playing. He played the 16 games. Kenneth Walker played 17. Charbonnet, though, had 12 touchdowns. Kenneth Walker had 5 touchdowns. So, again, the way how this was obviously distributed was very specific. They both were very successful. 4 yards per carry for Charbonnet, 4.6 yards per carry for Kenneth Walker. So, again, all within range of one another. But if we just take the running backs who got 50% of the, minimum rush attempts of 323. So we're really just isolating the running backs that were legitimately getting the ball handed off to them, getting the ball handed off to them, getting the ball handed off to them. And, Kenneth Walker was tied for 11th, 4.66 yards per attempt. To me, that's kind of what I look at a little bit more. I try to look at the quality of the offensive line and the yards per attempt, more so than touchdown, more so than total yards. So much of that is influenced, like, do you have a big lead? Are you just running the ball? You getting a million carries? Like, what? There's too much with that. But also, again, in terms of touchdowns, like, are you responsible that when you're on the 2-yard line that you get the ball handed off to you and you pound it in? Or do you have a team where your quarterback is more likely to do that, or you're more likely to throw it in that moment actually because of your quarterback or your OC or whatever? So I do like to lean on a little bit more on the yards per attempt. But, I think looking at some of the stats and especially some of the averages for running backs it's a little bit trickier. It can definitely be a little bit trickier because just in terms of, again, how often a team wants to run the ball, especially in the second half, fourth quarter, like, it's just, I think numbers can kind of get, construed a bit. Also, sometimes when you're blowing out a team and you're able to just keep running the ball, like, it's just, I think there's too much of, well, it depends, or what does this really mean? So, I know Bijan Robinson is an absolute monster of a running back, and he was third. He was behind behind Kenneth Walker. I'm not so sure that Josh Jacobs was necessarily the fourth best running back in the NFL this last season. He did have 13 rushing touchdowns, which is great, but it's just like I'm unsure. Who do you think was better, Jonathan Taylor or Josh Jacobs or Charbonnet, right? Or Bree Hall? Who was better, Bree Hall or Jonathan Taylor? I think we know that answer. So that's just why I lean a little bit more on yards per attempt, because you can kind of look at the O-line, see the quality of the O-line, see the quality of, the types of runs that they're kind of asking their running back to make at any given moment, the timing of them asking. Do you find yourself in a lot of these close games in the fourth quarter where you are just running the ball and, you're not necessarily going to convert, but like you just want to keep milking the clock, which now that also can kind of bring down your yards per attempt. Like it can just get a little bit messier here. So I think it's a positive addition for the Kansas City Chiefs. No question about it, but it's not, to me, this game-changing team changing, like, all right, now we got a running back to do damage. Like, that's not my sentiment. And I feel like the way how Danny phrased this was like, if it was like Patrick Mahomes had no receivers and now they went out. and got Justin Jefferson. It's like now they got someone Patrick Mahomes can do some damage with. It's just like, that's not quite what I see. Any of the times that like a Pacheco struggled or Hunt struggled, like it's not so clear to me. That you put Kenneth Walker in there and now you're just seeing magic. Now, if your O-line is good enough and you are able to take that step forward and you're able to actually improve the passing game and not be through the slumps that you've been these last couple of years, then yeah, having a reliable back like Kenneth Walker, but also Kenneth Walker, there are plenty of times that he tries to do more than he should and it gets himself in trouble, which is always, can always be a bit frustrating. But I mean, yeah, again, I don't see it as a negative and I don't see it as being nothing. But to me, it's not this like top of the list. Oh my goodness, they just got Kenneth Walker. Let's go. Like this is the difference between winning and losing games for the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't quite see it that way. I don't quite see it that way. I don't think if you have Kenneth Walker, now you beat the Buffalo Bills on the road. Now you beat the Denver Broncos on the road. Like I know that's not quite the difference to me. Like Kareem Hunt against the Denver Broncos right in that close game 22-19. And I gotta have it win. Kareem Hunt had 13 carries for 59 yards, 4.5 yards per carry, and 1 touchdown. I mean, that's top level at that point, right? I mean, it's essentially what you had with Kenneth Walker there. I mean, against the Dallas Cowboys in a hard fall, back and forth, pretty exciting game Thanksgiving. Kareem Hunt 14 carries, 58 yards, 4.1 yards per carry. Isaiah Pacheco 3 carries for 16 yards, 5.3 yards per carry. And then obviously we have a couple of the other random stuff like Xavier Worthy-Rishi, but not factoring that in. So yeah, it's not like you insert Kenneth Walker here and now there's just this absolute difference. And let's just use a team like the Philadelphia Eagles as an example. They had a DeAndre Swift who had 4.6 yards per carry in 2023, and then they said we're going to add Saquon Barkley. And people like, well, yeah, but like how much of an impact will it really have? And it was massive. Getting a full extra yard per carry ends up being quite big. So I believe Kenneth Walker will be a great contributing factor and will be a great just contributor in general for the Kansas City Chiefs. But if you're expecting to now have like this legitimate game or this guy, now that Patrick Mahomes can just hand the ball off and take a play off or something because now you know that you got someone else who's just going to be able to get the job done there. I don't know if I quite see that. I don't know exactly where that's necessarily where that sentiment is coming from. Yeah, doesn't quite register. And the last thing that I'll say is the other thing that I really look at is yards after contact, because that's now, are you getting hit? What are you doing when you get hit? And Kenneth Walker is 21st. He's 21st in yards after contact. And then you have Ahan at the top, Bijan Robinson, Derrick Henry, Javonte Williams, Jonathan Taylor, JCM, Tevion Henderson, Charbonnet. I think that's something else worthwhile. Now, it's not like Kenneth Walker is like, plummeting, but, he's right at the cusp at 3, right about to be in the 2s, which is then like the bottom. What would that be? Like the bottom 10th, bottom 3rd. No, bottom 3rd or so. So yeah, I don't know. Just things to consider. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Kenneth Walker being signed by the Kansas City Chiefs? Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. It's whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get at some discussions, let's get at some fights, but ultimately let's just have some fun, and please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.